Welcome or welcome back to Cooking with Frenchie. Cooking and baking made easy. On these days and the last few weeks, we've been in trouble. The world is in trouble with the coronavirus, as you all know, I'm sure. And therefore, I'm trying to bring you a recipe that is actually cheap to make, on the low budget. It won't take too much of your time as it's cooking in a slow cooker. So the name of the recipe is Massale de boeuf. It's a dish from Reunión Island. Reunión Island is a territory of France that most of you will have no idea about it. It's a beautiful little island between Mauritius and Madagascar, close to the east coast of the African continent. So this dish is made with massale. For English-speaking people, massale is more so about garam masala. So this mix of spices, really, which is made with peppercorn, cardamom pods, greens and black, nutmeg, a little bit of cinnamon, all roasted, toasted and blended together. I didn't make the mix of the spices for that recipe, but I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful curry for the people from Reunion Island, curry for the people who are used to spicy stews. So we are going to do a stewing cooking method. It's going to be made and cooked in the slow cooker for about 7 hours. Yes. Why so long? Because it's slow cooking, because it's French cooking, and we cook like snails, apparently. So we're going to take our time. To get those beautiful flavors mixed together, I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful curry paste, and I will show you how to seal and sear the piece of meat to keep really the juices into your meat, for them to release into the stew and make a wonderful sauce that is so flavorsome with spices and the secret ingredients that you have maybe never seen before. So before we go a little bit further into the cooking process, don't forget to subscribe, as usual, change your notification bell settings too, and under the video in the description you will find a link to this beautiful recipe. For this recipe I'm using beef skirt. Why? Very cheap. At the moment it's about $10 or $11 a kilo, Australian dollars, so you can feed a lot of people with a very low budget meal. So if you don't have a chance to go out, if you can't chop for too long, just bulk cook, prepare it in advance, portion it, freeze it, and you can feed the family 2 or 3 times within the next few weeks. That costs about $4 per person, including the rice. So get into it. Make sure you cook with either skirt, rump, or chunk beef. Those skirt meats are very cheap, and they are ideal to cook in a slow cooker or to make it as a stew. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Check the link I'm going to put in the description that will take you to a little bit more history of the Reunion Island, why we have those spices in Reunion Island, why we cook with spices from India, a little bit of Mauritius flavor, and a French technique behind. That history will tell you a lot more on my blog. So see you out there. Don't hesitate to put some comment, and soon I will bring you the sablé breton recipe that I just did last night, and it was to die for. So you might get lucky this week and have 2 recipes instead of 1. So bon appetit, enjoy this video. Bye.
Here we are with our whole chuck beef fillet ready for our beautiful creole beef massale from Reunion Island. So my garam masala, my turmeric, I've got onions, extra virgin olive oil, that little kaffir lime, also called kombava, some passata, which is tomato sauce, chilies, bird eyes, rock salt, tomatoes, ginger. First of all, peel and slice your onion. Nice clean board. Make sure you put your fingers safely, and I will do a full video on how to chop an onion and do the claw grip, just to make sure you have fingers at the end of the recipe and you start to learn how to chop properly. So that's a really cool little tips and technique. This videos today is full of tips and techniques, but I will cut them down and break them down. So first of all, you see your fingers, never chop like this. You will chop the tip of your finger. Always put your big finger ahead and put the blade against it. And as you can see, put the angle of the blade away from you. This way you will never chop your fingers. My thumb, it's against the back of the onions. Like this, I can control the slice, retract my fingers slowly, and my blade is always touching my fingers, the knuckles of my fingers, like that. I'm not cutting myself. So chop, slice, I should say, all your onions. And once you're good at it, you can go as fast as I am doing now. I'm just like it's really on acceleration motion. Peel your ginger. Peel it thoroughly. The bowl. And I'm gonna use a pestle and mortar to make my curry paste. If you didn't have a pestle or mortar, you could just use a food processor, a blender, a bit of olive oil inside. Sometimes I've got to say I use the NutriBullet. It's good, it works well, and it's very, very efficient. In a pestle and mortar, just chop roughly your ginger. Then chop roughly your chilies. I use bird-eye chilies because this dish should be a tiny spicy. After, it's up to you how spicy you like it. You can accentuate the chilies. I don't take the seed because I want it hot. For me, the hotter the better when it comes to massale. Originally, this recipe is made for lamb or chicken. But as I mentioned before, since the COVID-19, it's very hard to find chicken and lamb here in Australia, believe that. And all we got available at the moment is really beef. Put your garlic cloves into it, a big dash of olive oil, your garam masala, so here I'm putting a good 4-5 tablespoons, and I would be doing the same with the turmeric. Pour it in there, bring up the pestle, and just slowly push down, press down. So I'll go slowly with the garlic clove at first, just to make sure they break down. And then we're gonna go faster to create a real paste. That takes a while. As I said, you could do it way faster by using a food processor. So there's no really rule of thumbs on how to use a pestle and mortar. Just make sure you press, you push, and you go all over. Nice and gentle, you don't want to break anything. And slowly, that's all release the flavor, mix the flavor, and also give you a nice looking paste. Something you can be proud of, and something that's gonna give you a nice flavor. It's organic, it's all fresh produce, nothing from the jar here in that curry paste. Once it's done, I'm gonna use the kombava or the kaffir lime. So here we are. If you don't have kaffir lime, don't panic. You could use kaffir lime leaves, which are really available. And that's the difference between the Indian curry and the Creole curry from Reunion Island. Is the fact that in Reunion Island they do have a lot of kaffir lime. It's widely available, so therefore they use this in their dish, and it's actually some beautiful flavor. So here in Australia we can only find it about once or twice a year, depending on the season, and for a short time. So you could use a microplane, or as I do now, just a grater, just to get all the fine little rime of it. That's beautiful little flavor. I'm gonna go through my paste and I'm gonna mix it through. Just like so. Also try to jazz it up a little bit in terms of camera angle, giving you some different options to have a look. It's like this, you can really see the action of the pestle on the mortar and how I press down and push. Once you're done, just scrape everything and keep it aside. Here I'm scraping the lime inside. If there is some more, I'll give it a quick mix through it. Just like that, easy as that. Can tell you the smell of it was just amazing. With the rest of the lime, I don't discard it. I'm just gonna cut a little bit more the rest of the skin. Really, the lime itself doesn't have much juice at all, so there's no point to use it. You could put it in your curry if you didn't want to throw it. You see, as I press, there's no juice. It's a very weird kind of fruit in that sense. So personally, I discard the flesh of the lime, but I kept the skin. Yeah, I'm going to show you another tip in regards to your tomato. How to core a tomato. Take off that little core there. It shouldn't be presented, it shouldn't be cooked with it. It's got a little bitter flavor to it. So the housewife style, as I call it, you just cut the tomato in half and remove the core. What I do here, I'm just going to show you a little tip. This is a small knife. I'm going to plant the once that I do the housewife style, and I find that dangerous to do that. Why? Because generally people use one knife. It's a large knife. If you're not careful, your knife go through and you cut your finger. I don't like that style. I prefer using a small knife. Grab your tomato firmly in one hand, small knife in the other hand, and really put 1 centimeter. Don't go all the way like this, you will cut yourself too. Just put your thumb against and turn the tomato. As you turn the tomato, you don't need to move the wrist of the knife. As you turn the tomato, the core just comes out very nicely and gently. Less risk to cut yourself, more efficient, way faster, less issue. Once you're done, just dice your tomato, cut them in half first, and then die them about 1 centimeter square. It's not very important the size you cut them, because they will break down as you cook them. And not there for presentation. The purist of cooking will tell you, oh my god, you didn't peel them, refresh and blanch, you didn't take the skin out. What a chef. Hang on a minute. I'm showing in this series all the tips and tricks for people at home. And that's a family dish. A dish that is cheap to make and still very nice. So don't worry, if you are a purist and you want to take the tomato skin off, please feel free to do so. Boiling water, 1 minute into it, refresh for 5 minutes in icy cold water and take off the skin. So here's my chuck beef. So as I mentioned, the chuck beef is quite cheap. Chuck or skirt, depend of what you want. I can use also a rump, a little bit more expensive at this time. So I'm just cleaning a little bit of the meat, but not much. I will keep a little bit of fat on it. I was just removing the big sinew, but I'm cutting dice of 3 to 4 centimeters of the beef. Because this cooks for a long time, you don't have to worry too much about the fat or the sinew. They will break down. The thing with slow cooking process or stewing is another key I will talk about later, but that's why you buy cheap cut off meat to do them, because you cook them for the long time, a long period of time. During that cooking process, the protein of the meat tenderize and start to break down, so your meats become tender. I will never do that with a beef fillet, high fillet, or porterhouse steak. There's no point. It's a waste of quality of the meat, and to be honest with you, more than likely it's going to be even more chewy. So that will give you beautiful tender dish in the end. So my slow cooker, I warm it up now. I started on the high heat, so just as I am doing now, and I'm going to move over to my frying pan. In this frying pan, I heat it up to high heat, put some olive oil into it and heat it up until it's quite hot. It's very important to do so, because one important technique here, what we are going to do is to cook your onions, make them sweat first, so it takes about 3-4 minutes because of the amount of the onions, and we're gonna cook them until they look a little bit caramelized, a little bit brown on the side. So we start in the onions in a fry pan, stir them every 2 or 3 minutes, not all the time, just let them sweat, let them release the natural sugar. By sweating the onions, you release the sugar, it caramelizes, and that's how you get that beautiful brown color, which will transfer to your stew, and also that kind of sweet flavor. That's why the French onion soup is so famous, because you really caramelize hard the onions. It's getting darker and darker, and I'm fine with that. Once you're done with the onions, you will transfer them to the slow cooker, just like they say here. Chuck it in there. But before I do that, I'm going to cook my paste a little bit, just for a minute. Cooking your paste will give it a nicer flavor. It will start to develop all those flavors of the masala spices, like your kaffir lime, your kombava, your turmeric, the garlic, the chili will start to release this spiciness and hotness. So just cook it on high heat, everything on high heat for a minute, and transfer everything in your slow cooker. You see it start to stick to the bottom, getting brown, and that's fine. So you transfer everything in the cooker. And by the way, I hope everyone is fine at home and your family is safe and everything is going quite well. So stay safe, stay home, and if you can, just go out for shopping and keep cooking. There's way more recipe on my website, as you know, www.cookingwithfrenchy.com. You will have all the recipe and links in the description or dialogue box under the video, so check it out, have a look for more ideas, and always comment and ask me questions. I'm here to share my passion with you. So I kept my pan on the high heat there, I add a little bit more oil. You see it's quite dark and brown. Doesn't worry me. What we are doing here is sealing the meat. So important to seal the meat on high heat, at least for a minute on each side. As you can see, I am not overloading the pan. I'm leaving some space between the pieces of meat. If you put too much cold meat into a hot pan, it will cool down the pan, it will cool down the fat. Therefore, your meat is not sealed properly, it doesn't caramelize, and as you will kind of encounter sometimes, the juice are coming out and it looks like you're stewing already the meat. If you do that, your meat's going to become tough straight away because your juice are out of the meat. So it's very important that you sear the meat for 1 or 2 minutes on each side. Once you've done all the meat, you see my pan is quite dark. It looks kind of burnt. That's all the spices. That's all the natural sugar of your onions, of the spices of the meat that here attached to the bottom of the pan. Don't panic. Just throw your tomatoes into it and cook it for another minute or 2. As you cook it, the acidity of the tomato and the liquid will just really detach all these flavors. That's one of the best flavors there is. That's what's going to make your stew as well so special and the color so dark. You will see later on, I'm not adding any tomato paste or any coloring. I'm just using some beautiful tomato passata, which is a tomato sauce, but no salt added, no sugar. It's just really basic tomato sauce. I'm gonna use a bit more water, and I did add another jar, to be honest. So let's mix it together, mix the flavor. So we're mixing those flavors through the entire stew, which is very important. Very important. And I'm putting the kaffir lime leaves. I'm putting the kaffir lime into it, the skin, and a big pinch of rock salt. Give it a good stir. Put the lid on. Leave it on high heat until you see it bubbling. When it's bubbling, reduce to low heat and forget about it for another 6.5-7 hours. 7 hours later, look at the juice on the side of the slow cooker. It has reduced by at least a quarter. Here there's no starch, it's totally gluten-free. It's beautiful. Look at that sauce, the color. I can't tell you how good it was because I'm biased, but it was just so nice. Just with a spoon here, I'm not even forcing, I'm just pushing, and the meat is just slightly breaking down. Serve my Massale beef with a little bit of rice, and that's it. It was scrumptious. So I hope you enjoyed this video and get cooking.